everyone, and welcome back to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards, and I've been your host this weekend with my friend Michelle Wells. We're both from Tasmania in Australia. Michelle is up in Devonport, which is at the north of the state, and I'm in Hobart, which is at the south. But wherever you're from, welcome, and I really hope you've enjoyed our weekend workshop. And I hope also that you'll come back for future workshops, because if this goes well, I know both of us are keen to keep this thing going, these workshops going, even once the current situation has sorted itself out, which hopefully it will soon. I'm just going to make sure my iPad is working. There we go, and it is, so we can continue. My final card today, as I say, this is my final card of 4 for the weekend, is this really nice sort of earthy birthday card here that I've made. You could use it for anything. It's sort of really quite understated. It could be a get well card or even a sympathy card, I think, quite easily, because it is quite subtle, but it's got a fair bit going on as well. But in a sort of subtle sort of way. Anyway, so as I say, this one is using the embossing folder, which is one of my favourite products from the new suite, the Ornate Floral embossing folder. But it also uses the Ornate borders dies. So I seem to be using these quite a lot in this particular workshop. The one I'm using is this really sweet little one here with some daisies and some other flowers and some leaves happening, and it actually cuts out this central image here. Cuts out this central image, which I have cut from this very vanilla cardstock. So it sort of gives that detail in there, and it is backed with a basic black panel just to give it a real bit of, so it shows up really, really nicely. Okay, so let's get started. We'll see how we go with this one. This is actually my second attempt today. I got halfway through it and realised I had made a mistake in my first video, so that's the joy of live crafting, or not so live. At least you can start again. Okay, so I have, and I'll just bring my chair in, I have I'll close my door, excuse me, just in case the family emerges. Makes a noise. I have a crumb cake card base here, which is my normal size card base at 8 1/4 by 5 3/4 inches, or in metric that's 21 centimetres by 14.5 centimetres, and it's scored in the middle to form a A6, normal A6 card base. I have a panel of Very Vanilla, which is going to pop inside there eventually, there, and that's just an 1/8 of an inch smaller, or 1/4 of a centimetre smaller than our card base. And the same, so I've cut 2 of those, and I've got one for the outside as well. I also have a panel of basic black, which is the step I missed when I did the first attempt at this video, so that's going to sit up behind our die cut. And a little sentiment box that I've used the Stitch So Sweetly dies to cut, and I've used these a few times, and I promised you'd see them again. So that's this little stitched serrated or corrugated rectangle there in this one. I'm going to actually heat emboss, white heat emboss this sentiment here, but you could use any sentiment that fits depending on the occasion you're making the card for. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to break my cardinal rule and bring my die cutting machine into camera here and onto the table. So in advance I beg your forgiveness. I've mentioned before to people who watch me regularly that my house is very old. It's over 120 years old, and the floorboards in places, and unfortunately my craft room is one of those places, it's a bit like a trampoline, and unfortunately when I bring the die cutting machine onto this particular table, it jumps around like a trampoline as well. So if you're prone to seasickness, I probably assume that you look away now. So anyway, what I'm doing is I have positioned our die in sort of a diagonal position across our card base there, and I'm going to pop it through the machine. So I have mentioned, I'm going to have to stand up again here. I have mentioned with these ones previously that it's best to either use your if you've got a metal plate, to use that, or be prepared to pop it through a few times. And that's the usual problem, you know, not problem, but the usual way you have to do these really intricate dies, because they have got some fine detail in there. So I've popped that through 4 times, so let's see how we go, whether we've cut. Yep, that's cut through all right. So I'm just going to bring that out, and usually you would use this part, but this time I'm actually going to use this sort of like the negative of the die. That's the basis of our card there. And then I'm going to pop that through the embossing folder like this. I'm going to have to make sure I have the right side up. I actually put the wrong side up previously and ended up with a mirror image of what I actually wanted. So let's try that way. Okay, so we'll do that, pop that through there. And this really is going to wobble, so forgive me. Yeah, and a bit last final snap. Okay, so we'll bring that out of the way. And the magic is revealed. There we are. So there is our die cut and embossed panel of Very Vanilla. So what I'm actually going to do, and I'll sit down again with a thump, what I'm going to do is I have cut the same die as we cut before. So this one we cut in Very Vanilla. I have already cut it in the crumb cake there, and that is going to fit pretty much perfectly back into our Very Vanilla part there. Just make sure my mat didn't move too much with all that shaking about with the die cutting machine. So you can see that that goes pretty well back in there. So what I'm going to do, and this is the part that I, as I mentioned, forgot when I was doing my previous card, is that that's going to have the small panel of basic black behind it, just to give it that, make it stand out a little bit more. And because it's a rectangle, it's going to have these edges trimmed off, as you can see where they overlap a tiny bit. Okay, so we'll bring in our card base and we'll do that. So what I'm going to do is bring in the card base, and I'm going to position the black just there in position. And before I stick it down, I'm going to cut off the corners, just the corners that overlap the card base, just like that, and just a little bit there and a little bit there. Okay, so you've basically got a rectangle, but it's got its edges, its corners trimmed off. I'm going to pop that on there with some glue. Just like that. Okay, so then I'm going to bring in our embossed panel. I'm going to put that over there like that. Now I'm going to have to trim for the glue, trim just a tiny bit more off that rectangle. Should have tried that beforehand, just a little bit of trial and error, just to make sure none of the corners of the black sort of show over the top, out the side of our Very Vanilla. Okay, so I'm going to secure this with some double-sided tape. There we are, and just a little bit at the bottom. Actually pop just a little bit, and you could use glue for this, of course, because it's not too bad. It does have some nice attaching surfaces, but you could use a bit of glue as well. But I'm just attaching it there on the side so the edges of our die cut don't gape too much. So just removing all these pieces of covering, I've got quite a pile of them over there to the camera, off camera to the right, but I'll clean that up later. Joys of handmade, you end up with quite a pile of debris. And there we are. Forgive if you can hear that, my husband in the background preparing his meal with the microwave. Did tell him I was going live, but he's decided to go for it anyway. There we go. There we have that. So that's there. We've got our panel of Very Vanilla with our black behind, and now you can see that that cake crumb die cut fits beautifully just in there like that. So I will glue that in now, just with touches of glue. You don't have to go too mad with the glue with this one. I mean, just in the larger parts, just pop some glue just on the sort of leaves that are large, flowers and the leaves there. Just little touches just in the larger parts where you can put it without making too much gluey mess, which if you're like me, you end up with a gluey mess sometimes. Okay, up the other way, and just position that back in the little hole that we've created in our Very Vanilla. Okay, how's that? We're liking that? Okay, how's that? I'll bring it close so you can have a look. So there we have our crumb cake die cut sitting in the hole in our Very Vanilla that we created in our embossed panel there. So that's quite nice. So what we might do now is bring in some of these little flowers. So I have cut these. Now if you look at the die set again, we have 3 little flowers, 1, 2, 3. And I have already cut those, and they're at the size that fits pretty much perfectly in the little flowers here. So you can actually just cut them, and I've cut the various ones in Very Vanilla and the cake crumb, but I'm going to use the Very Vanilla ones here, up and down. So I've cut 2 or 3 of each of those, and I'm going to position them where they belong. Sort of seems a weird thing to say, but the little one obviously goes over the little one, and the big one goes over the big flower, and the medium one goes over the medium flower. So it's all a bit like this. Now, I traumatised about these for the longest time because it's very hard to work out what orientation you should take. And then I realised that the holes in the flowers, there's a big hole and a medium hole and a small hole. If you line up the orientation on your actual little flower here, and line up the big hole with the big hole and the little hole with the little hole, you actually get your flower in the right orientation to fit pretty much perfectly into that die cut there. So just a little bit of glue, and then I'll line up the big hole on there with the big hole on the die cut, and it fits pretty much perfectly. It's got a little edge of the die cut behind the large die cut, but they sort of follow the contours of each other, and that seems to fit really well. So if you do the same with the large one, so this is a large of the flowers, line up the big hole with the big hole. Sounds like a good life lesson really, doesn't it? Line them up with each other, and then they fit pretty much where they should. Actually, that's supposed to be the medium one. Apologies there, just bring the medium one in. It's supposed to be the fit there, I think. I'm quite sure. Yeah, I think so. I've actually put it upside down compared to the one I did before, so it's a bit hard to tell. Yeah, that's better. See, that fits. Wouldn't matter too much. I suppose it's just wanting to be exact for this video. So that one actually goes in there. I'll bring back the one I did before. So this is the big one here, and that one goes that way. Yep. So that fits in there. Right, I'll bring it closer. As I say, I'll bring it closer in a minute. And at the other end there would be a medium one. a little bit of glue on the end, line up the big hole with the big hole, and there we are. Okay, so then I've got some extras here, and I'm just going to sort of put them around as well. Oh, bit of paper on the end of my glue just to add a little bit more interest to our design. Pop this one here, and then another little one just at the end here. But you could pop as many or as little or as few as you want. There we are. There we are. So we've got some flowers there. That's a little bit fiddly, that part, but I think it's worth it. So we've got some little flowers there on our die cut, our cake crumb die cut, just as a bit of contrast there. Okay, so nearly finished this one. So I've got our little sentiment box. I'm going to die to, as I say, white heat emboss that. I'm going to use the Happy Birthday sentiment out of the Peaceful Moments stamp set. So I don't know if you've seen this one that comes with the poppy suite. I'm going to use this one here, but you could also use, say, the thank you or the deepest sympathy. That fits as well. Or this one here as well, wishing you every happiness this special day will bring. So that would sort of make it a wedding card, I assume. So yeah, you can use this design on any of those, but I'm going to use the Happy Birthday. And as I say, I'm going to heat emboss it, so I'll bring in my heat embossing surface that I use. So heat embossing really brings something quite special to these cards. If you haven't tried it before, I really suggest you give it a go. It just sort of adds a dimension, just something a bit special. Especially if you want to go white on black. It's probably the best way, I think, of getting the white on black. So we'll just use our Versamark ink, which is also available from Stampin' Up. It's a clear ink if you haven't seen it before. And you just basically pop your image on there. And you can't probably see it on the video, but it's just like a shiny sort of clear image there. And we have the white embossing powder, which I will sprinkle onto that inked sentiment. Get rid of the excess. And there we have, I didn't use my embossing buddy, which I should have, a paintbrush. There we have our embossed sentiment. Just going to get rid of the excess around the edges with just a small paintbrush and a bit of a flick. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in, get rid of that so I don't make a horrible mess. I'm going to bring in my embossing, my heat gun. And I might actually use a little pair of tweezers if I can find them, so I don't hurt my fingers. Bear with me a second. If I can find my tweezers. No, can't find them. I'll just grin and bear it. Won't be too bad. Okay, so just forgive the noise. We've got shake and noise happening on this video, so it's a bit of everything. So I actually, when I heat emboss, you can see I come from the back, and that actually makes sure that your cardstock's going to curl, but if you heat from the back, it curls more. It curls in a way that you can attach it to your cardstock better, rather than, hang on, there we go, that's all done. So it curls this way, rather than this way. So it makes a frowny face rather than a happy face. So the frowny face you can attach so more easily to your cardstock, so it doesn't stick up too much at the edges. That makes sense. So here we go. So I'm, oh, wrong one. So I'm going to bring in our card. I'm going to pop that on there. I'm going to put it up on some dimensionals. Something went a bit glitchy with my camera then. Hopefully it's gone all right. So then dimensionals, just to give it a bit of height. I'm going to pop that one just down there in the corner. There we go. Now I have a small and a medium flower here that I've cut from Crumb cake cardstock from the die set as well. And I'm just going to pop those just here on the corner, just to give a little bit of extra decoration to our sentiment box, just like that. Just bring the glue back in. Put the little one on first. Glue's decided to stop. I think this is probably just as well. It's my last video. Things are going terribly wrong here today for this one. It's alright. Hopefully the quality of the products will speak for themselves. Oh, I know it's going to come out in a big rush, just like that. Let's get a piece of paper and scrape off some of that glue. Okay, so we'll pop him on there. Far too much glue. Oh dear. And the other one, just overlap it a little bit like that. I might bring in a wipe. Just wipe off some of that excess glue off me and off the card. Oh dear. Definitely need to close the door on the craft room a little bit now. That's a bit of a disaster. Anyway, hopefully that'll be all right. Just touch that glue off a little bit. Okay, so final step with the glue. A bit scared, but I'll bring the glue back in and pop the centre panel inside. And I'm going to leave that blank because, as I say, this card could be used for sort of any sentiment, any sort of occasion. Just leave that blank on the inside. Okay, so thankfully that's the last one done. Didn't think I was going to get through that. Hopefully you like that one. I realise now I've done it in a slightly different orientation to my original one. My original one went from left to right and this one's going from right to left. But that's okay, they both look lovely. Okay, so as I say, that is my last card for this weekend. I hope you've enjoyed the cards that I have presented to you. If you see anything you like and you would like to purchase from me, please go to that website there, stampinwithjulianne.stampinup.net, and use that postcode for the weekend workshop, JKUVKKDX. And then I'll know that you're buying as a result of our weekend workshop, and I can send you the card kits. So you will get the card kits to make all 4 cards or all 4 projects that I have presented to you this weekend. So you get the card kit to make this one, this beautiful birthday or whatever one you want to use it for. You get the card kit to create my little soft sea foam Mother's Day card. You get the card kit, sorry I wobbled the thing there, card kit to make our 2 gorgeous gift tags / bookmarks, and you get the card kit to make this card, which I thought had caused me traumas before, but definitely nothing compared to that last one, that one there as well. So if you buy from me during the weekend, I will give you the card kits already cut, scored, cut and scored, ready to create those 4 little projects there. So hopefully one of those has attracted you and you would like to buy from me this weekend, as I say, using that website and that host code. And I also will send you, if you buy from me this weekend, a set of a little packet of rhinestone embellishments as well. Okay, just as an extra thank you. So as I say, thank you for tuning in this weekend. Thank you for all your wonderful interactions. and hopefully we will see you back for future workshops. If you pop to our business pages and like or follow the business pages, you'll see any future events we have planned. As I say, we would like to continue this sort of thing after the current crisis is over, so we can bring these wonderful projects to you on an ongoing basis. So as I say, thanks very much. I hope you enjoy the final video, which should be Michelle fairly shortly, and we will see you again next time. Thank you.